Unfortunately, many moms come to me and they want me to train them because they thought that their body would bounce back. And then they realize, oh my gosh, that's not happening, because we know that is a lie. And they're disappointed because of everything that they heard or saw was just total BS. So I love that you talk about feeling good in your body, feeling strong and supported, instead of using all those words, like you said, slim and skinny and all those other kind of like aesthetic adjectives out there. So what are some of the first steps that you get your clients to do if and when they come to you with this kind of disappointment that they, didn't bounce back, and that they think they're fat? And I'm sure you've heard of all these things before. Like, how do you talk them off that, self-deprecation ledge, so to speak?
So typically when a client comes to work with us, they're choosing us or me because they want that neutral approach. They're probably more likely to go to a trainer who has six-pack ab pictures or whatever, if that's what the kind of approach they're looking for.
Right.
So I'd have to say, honestly, they're probably pre-qualified when they get to me. And most of them are not coming to me asking me for fat loss anymore. They used to, but since I've been more staunch about what kind of training I do, I don't get those kinds of questions. But on social media, I do. And so I would say that there are some very definite steps that need to be taken if you want to change your relationship with your body. And if you are interested in feeling better about your body, that's the first step. And I think what needs to happen is a really holistic approach to how you think of your body. And if the only way you can think of your body is as a tool to attract men, or a tool to demonstrate to the world how successful you are and how good you are at controlling yourself, and those are the only options as women outside of childbearing that we're given. Our goals must be to appear attractive and to appear successful. And those two things for women are one and the same, of course. So there is only success if you're attractive. So I think it's really important to examine your life in a more holistic sense. What are you doing to support your personhood outside of exercise and nutrition? When's the last time you read a book? Do you get to see your friends? Do you ever go out in nature? Are you super overworked? Are you in an unhealthy relationship with your partner? There's often relationship stuff involved in this, I think. Did you ditch a great hobby or two that you used to have in your 20s, and once you had kids, all of a sudden, you weren't able to make the time for that in early postpartum, and so it's just fallen by the wayside. And I think what happens is that we become defined only by our appearance and our motherhood, and that's ravaging for our self-esteem. And so I really think that, well, maybe what they're expecting is just do this, you know what I mean, or just read this book. It's really not that simple. And I think it involves being willing to look at your life and how well is it really nourishing you and supporting you. Sometimes when we start to add back in things like hobbies, outdoor time with friends, we naturally start to do things like binge less, drink less alcohol, you know what I mean, sit in front of the TV less. And we tend to do sort of health supporting behaviors when we're more mentally healthy.
Right.
The other side of it, I would say, because I understand that doesn't give you a lot of actionable steps, but the other side of it, I would say, is to recognize that whenever you want any kind of change in your life, and as a coach, you know this, Denise, that it is not a passive process. And so wanting to feel differently about your body, or wanting to have a less negative relationship with your body, doesn't come from wanting it. It comes from unfollowing accounts that make you feel badly. It comes from not hanging out with people who you can't help but compare yourself to. It comes from telling your mom or your aunt or your husband to stop commenting on your body. It comes from ditching your women's magazine subscriptions. It comes from, reducing your reality TV consumption. It comes from getting outside more. It comes from exploring movement. And often, I think, also comes from taking an absolute break from movement and exercise and dieting entirely, to just live in your body, which is very frightening sometimes, but just to live in your body and see what happens. Because for most women who are not doing an extreme amount of exercise, maybe they may be dieting or restricting food, but let's take it from the movement perspective, because neither of us are RDs. So from a movement side, if someone has been obsessed with the way their body looks, maybe they've been exercising 3-4 days a week, right? What happens if they stop exercising for a few weeks or a few months? Nothing. You get stiff, but movement doesn't make your body look a certain way unless it's at a really high critical mass point, done in a specific way with specific inputs. Right. And really over time, we might have change, of course, over several years. But what that break can do is it's almost like exposure therapy in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like, or if you had a phobia, it's like, let's see what happens. What if you just don't exercise for a month? What happens? Does the world come crashing down? Do you get fired? Does your husband leave you? You know what I mean? No, of course. You know, do you feel out of breath going up the stairs? Yeah. You know, do you feel maybe a little schlumpy? Do your clothes get a tiny bit tight? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's the opposite. But I think part of it is just starting to like test out those narratives that you've been told, read the science, follow people on social media who actually know what they're talking about, and follow other bodies who look like yours. Follow other women who are plus size, mid-size, fat, whatever you would identify as being your shape, who are active, but also shaped like you. You know what I mean? And I think there are some really actionable steps that need to be taken, and then some time allowed for those steps to take place. And the last thing I would say on that is just to try not to add that level of judgment. But I see a lot with moms is so hard on themselves. And a lot of moms come to wanting to accept their bodies in part because after they have kids, they don't want their kids to grow up with the same relationship with their bodies and the same relationship with food and exercise that they were raised with. So it becomes this like parenting pressure of like, I'm a bad parent if I don't become body positive. I don't even strive toward body positivity. First of all, that's a movement of women of color and fat bodies that doesn't belong to you and me. But I strive for body neutrality. I want to appreciate my body as just a part of my life and not the only thing that defines me. And so when you want to do that and it's hard, then you feel bad about your body because your brain hasn't come along for the ride yet. You're still trapped in that diet culture thinking. You're still living in that thought that you're valuable if you get thinner. But then you feel bad about that and you feel bad about not being body positive. So now you're like, you're failing in both ways. And so to try to give yourself time and self-compassion and to talk to other women who are on the same journey so you can learn, like, this is not an on-off switch. You know, you have to change your brain over a period of years, because for the 30 years before this, 35, 40, whatever it is, for some of the women now, like our mothers, you know, maybe who are in their 60s or 70s, that's all those decades of being taught one thing. And that does not just go away just because you read an inspiring Instagram post or watched a YouTube video.
I love that you said that, because that negative talk, it starts with what you see around you. Like you said, are you competing with your friends? What are you reading? Okay, like I don't read a lot these days, but it's on social media. And I said to my husband, I will not let my daughter, who's 8 right now, I will not let her have Instagram, because can you imagine what she's seeing? And I know what my clients are seeing. Oh, I wish I had this body. Oh, I wish this, like, right? Like, I don't want my clients to be seeing that, and that's contributing to all those negative thoughts they had. So yeah, you're right. Like, first off the bat, start deleting those social those accounts that you're following, and start following the accounts that align more with, like you said, your body size or where you want to be mentally. And feel about
the kind of life you want to live. I think a lot of women come to this thinking, I think, you know, I want to feel better about the way I look. But in my experience, what makes the most difference is feeling better about the way you live. And so what we can confuse is, I may be struggling, for example, I like to use the term parenting myself instead of self-care, because I think self-care gets a little loaded. Like, it's got to be all like spa trips. Whereas parenting myself, I can see parenting myself as being like a combination of, you know, it could be a fun day to do one day, but the next day it's like, you got to go to bed on time and brush your teeth, right? So I think parenting myself helps me to frame it. It doesn't mean because I want to be neutral towards my body that I have no standards. It doesn't mean I don't impose any structure, that I don't
Right.
try to eat vegetables, that I don't try to drink water. That's not what body neutrality means. But I think that sometimes we can only imagine, we've been conditioned as women just to put so much import on our physical appearance. And so
Mhm.
we don't look at all of the other things that affect our well-being. And I truly believe that when women really do find a place of peace, it's because their lives are full. Because
Yeah.
you realize, wow, like, okay, so what? So I have to buy a larger size than I wore a decade ago. Like, great. In another 10 years, I'll probably buy another larger size.
Yeah.
And the truth is, though, but here I am going to the zoo with my kids, going for a hike with my friend, going out on a date with my husband. I'm writing a blog. I'm taking an online course, and you have this life, and all of those things become so much more important at a certain
Mhm.
point when you get there than whether your belly hangs out over the top of your
Yeah.
pants,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Thank you so much, Dara. This has
Yeah.
been great. Can you tell our watchers where they can find you?
Sure. Well, as we already said, I'm Mumbod Love on Instagram. If you're in the Toronto area or in Canada, a Belly Boot Camp, bellybootcamp.ca are online and in-person classes for pregnant and postpartum people. And we also do one-on-one training remotely, like via video, or in person if you're just in Toronto, or in-person stuff's only in Toronto. And then mamareset.com are my online programs with my mom trainer BFF, Laura, who specializes in yoga and Pilates. So she brings her yoga and Pilates in a body neutral approach, and I bring my strength and athletic conditioning, mobility work, and then we combine those into some various programs. So some core and pelvic floor programming, as well as like a membership. So those would be the best places to come check us out and
Awesome.
see what can help you.
Awesome. And I'll put the links down below. So thank you so much. It's
Yeah,
been
it was so nice
great.
talking to you. Thank you.